What's up guys, it's Ian here, back today with another video, and today I wanted to talk about how I think that e-bikes and e-scooters are actually a super elegant and elaborate population control scheme. So before you turn off this video, hear me out here. I tried to look for the statistics. It seems like in the years of 2022 to 2024, somewhere between 40 to 80 people died on e-bikes and e-scooters. The actual numbers for 25 and so far into 26, it's kind of debatable and not fully published. And obviously, every death is a tragedy. Some of those people were people on e-bikes or scooters killing pedestrians or normal cyclists. I hate that I have to say that. Cyclists, bicyclists, people on non-motorized bicycles. Some of those were potentially fatalities of the riders themselves. I might be wrong about that, so go ahead and fact check me below. Anyways, that's not really the point. Each of these deaths is truly a tragedy, but however, in a population of 330 million or so in the United States. It might be higher than that now. I don't know the exact US population, but in a population of 300 something million, it's not that many people. It's not enough people to really affect the population. You could counterpoint it by saying that most of these e-bike and e-scooter deaths are inherently young people, and it is going to be disproportionately harming people who are more reproductive age, which downstream can have more of a, let's say, an exponential effect than, you know, killing people who've already had kids, right? But no, yeah, these are usually killing younger people, although sometimes the victims of, let's say, the pedestrians, they could be older people as well. So maybe it's a wash. The main thing I wanted to get at here is, yes, well, e-bikes and e-scooters are getting faster and more dangerous. Just the other day, I saw some ads showing that some of these modern e-scooters, they can go over 50 miles an hour. And this is often people just wearing a normal bicycle helmet. They're not wearing like a shuttle suit or any type of special protective equipment. I used to ride bicycles, road bikes, and let me just say that 50 miles an hour on a road bike feels extremely fast, and you have to really know what you're doing. And you typically only hit those types of speeds descending steep descents, right? Even mild descents, it's usually going to be more in the 40s to mid 40 miles an hour. So the fact that an electric motored e-bike can just take you to 55 miles an hour on flat ground, that's pretty extreme, especially considering that you could just get one of these from your friend and there's no licensure required. At least with a bicycle, you have to bike up a mountain. You're probably not going that fast unless you're pedaling down a hill, and you're probably on the brakes, and most people probably aren't going to want to go 50 miles an hour on a road bike anyways, right? So to go over 50 miles an hour on an e-bike, it's actually really fast. And to think that you could just be running red lights, dashing out into traffic, as I see a lot of students in the college town that I live in do, they don't really obey traffic laws. They don't obey stop signs. I think a lot of these kids are going to be in greater and greater danger as these e-bikes and e-scooters continue to get faster. And they have really small wheels, so they're arguably harder to handle and control than a road bike. But anyways, that's not really the main point of this video. What I wanted to really touch on is that in these past few years, I've had some health problems. And actually, I did my blood work and my hematocrit has declined precipitously. It's a lot lower than it was when I was younger. And what I will say is about 2.5 years ago, a little less, about 2 years ago and maybe 2 years and 4 or 5 months ago, about 2 years and 4 or 5 months ago, I got a car for the first time. And what that caused is it caused me to stop biking as much. I used to bike or walk almost everywhere, unless one of my friends was driving me and we were doing an outing or going somewhere that was too far to bike or walk. I would bike or walk everywhere. And I think I used to stay super lean. I'm still pretty lean, but I used to be super lean without trying. And people would always ask, like, what do you do? Do you have a crazy diet? And it's like, no, actually I eat whatever I want. I just don't own a car. And I would bike and walk everywhere, right? And that just kept me super lean. And I mean literally everywhere. Like, I would do the groceries on foot or on bike. I would just move constantly throughout the day. And I do think that moving in bursts, let's say like every hour you move for 5 or 10 minutes, that has a bigger effect on your metabolism and other factors than moving for an identical period of cumulative minutes all at once. So let's say like somebody who moves 5 minutes per hour 10 times a day, so 50 minutes, I think that probably has it's a different effect than somebody who just does 50 minutes of steady state cardio once a day. So if we're to compare minutes to minutes, I know it's not apples to apples because each of those 5-minute periods, it has a warm up, and that's kind of the whole point. It's that the person who moves frequently throughout the day, they're getting their body to fire up more frequently. You could argue it also maybe has more wear and tear, but I think that the longevity benefits and maybe the mitochondrial health benefits are patently unique enough to where these are two completely different physiologic effects. So yeah, I noticed that my health and hematocrit has somewhat declined in the past years. And I think that I can largely pin it on getting a car, and it kind of usurped the time that I would have been bicycling or walking. A lot of the short walks that I used to take, a lot of the short bicycles that I used to take, and these are human-powered bicycles. I've never owned an e-bike or a scooter, but having a car basically replaced those small exercise periods throughout the day and resulted in a lowered hematocrit. And what I will say is that I obviously, like, you could make the argument, yeah, but you could own a car or an e-bike or e-scooter and you can still work out. But for most people, it is a bit of a replacement effect because, yeah, of course you could still work out, but a lot of the time, replacement effects are just super powerful and you don't think about it, right? Because, yeah, I mean, you could just eat healthier, you could just add fruits and vegetables into your diet, but a lot of the time, what happens is that you cut out processed foods when you add fruits and vegetables, because when you fill up your plate with, let's say, fruits, vegetables, lean sources of protein, whether you're vegetarian or not, you often remove processed foods from your diet. So usually it's not the case that somebody just eats a bunch of processed foods and then they also eat a bunch of healthy foods. Usually a person eats a bunch of healthy foods and they gradually replace the processed foods in the person's diet. And in my case, it was a negative replacement. I stopped walking and cycling as much and I replaced it with driving. And I do really enjoy driving, so hopefully I don't get assassinated by the motor vehicle industry, right? And this wasn't even really about motor vehicles because typically you don't start being able to have motor vehicles until you're older. But nowadays I see a lot of kids on e-bikes and e-scooters. And when I was a little kid, we didn't even have smartphones. And we all had human-powered bicycles. I hate that I have to say that, but we all had non-electric bicycles. We had bicycles that you had to pedal. Yeah, you have to pedal e-bikes. We had non-motorized vehicles as kids. We ran around and we biked without motors. And and I think that nowadays kids are having those activities replaced. And I think that kids might be getting to that like low hematocrit kind of like getting diabetes, middle-aged health crisis thing they might get that a lot sooner. And a lot of kids do get cars when they're 16. I didn't get my first car till I was 31. But yeah, nowadays I think kids are going to get cars younger, and they're going to get e-bikes and e-scooters younger and younger. And I do think this is where, the whole title of the video, elaborate population control scheme, I think that we're going to see a lot more diabetes and, let's say, blood sugar regulation issues, lower hematocrit. We're going to see all of these downstream physiologic effects manifest earlier in life as kids are maybe running around and bicycling around less and less, and replacing those activities with e-bikes and e-scooters. And yeah, you can, if you are disciplined or you're a disciplined parent, you can counter argue and say like, no, my kid's going to do both. They're going to e-bike and e-scooter, and they're also going to have a bicycle. I think the responsible thing to do is just don't give your kid these motorized scooters and e-bikes, because they go really fast, probably faster than the maturity level of the kid is ready to handle. And for what it's worth, I don't think I was mature enough to be going 50 miles an hour on a road bike when I was probably 16, 17, road biking. And I had some pretty heinous crashes I had one pretty heinous crash on the road bike, could have died. And I had several pretty bad crashes on the mountain bike, lower speed, but more rocky terrain and stuff. I've had some pretty bad crashes on bicycles, but that wasn't until I reached a certain age where I could actually get up into the hills and go down these steep hills, or, go up into the trails and mountain bike and, fall off the side of a trail or something like that, right? I didn't start to have these severe crashes until I was older. But I think when you have young kids who can just pick up an item and just, all right, I'm going 50 miles an hour on the street with cars, and they might not even put a helmet on, I think we're going to see the incidents only go up. And that, as I said, every death is a tragedy, but that's not even the main factor. I think the main factor is actually going to be hidden in less movement, and people are going to be getting diabetes, and their hematocrits are going to be dropping. So yeah, I guess I've said what I meant to say here, what I needed to say. I'm going to go out and I'm going to go have a workout right now while it's still sunny. So as far as my own fitness, I've been doing a bit less lifting. I've been doing more calisthenics. I want to I want to improve my skilled movements. I don't want to say any specific skills. If I get there, that's great, but I don't want to put it out there and be like, I want this skill, and then I can't get it, and then I'm disappointed. I do want things. I have goals. I'm not going to say them until I get them. But if I do get them, I'll definitely show you guys. And so I'm going to go take a walk, and I'm going to do some calisthenics. And yeah, if you have kids, just think about it. If you yourself have an e-bike or an e-scooter, I guess think about it. I know that I wouldn't buy an e-bike or an e-scooter. If I had to get somewhere short to medium distance, I guess I would probably still bicycle. But I mean, nowadays I kind of even drive medium to short distances. And this is really uninspiring if you're watching this, but hey, I'm trying to be truthful. I'm trying to be honest here. It is unfortunate, and I'm not sure how I can break this habit, because now I've gotten used to just the convenience of a car. It's I can bring all these things with me, versus when I was on a bicycle, I'm like, okay, do I really need this? What do I have to bring? I can't bring a laptop. It's going to be heavy. It's I have to be really careful about what I bring on a bicycle. But in a car, it's you can bring more stuff with you. Don't break into my car. I don't leave valuables in it. I take them out when I leave the car. But anyways, thank you for watching. I'm going to go get out here and work out before it gets too late and I lose sun and it gets cold. Please comment down below. I have more topics lined up, so I'm gonna be dropping some more videos soon. But this e-bike one, I was just really thinking about it because I'm like, I see people everywhere on e-bikes. It's reached an inflection point where there's more e-bikes and e-scooters than there even are bicycles on the street. And I see some really fit athletic people riding around on e-bikes. And yeah, let me know what you think. Maybe I'm way off base here. Maybe the kids aren't going to get diabetes and all this stuff, and maybe I'm misinterpreting things. But yeah, I do think that they are getting faster and faster, and I do think that this physiologic effect of getting your first car effect, it's going to happen sooner. Because like, why do we always think like, oh, I started gaining weight in college, or like, oh, I just like randomly like started gaining weight in my mid-20s or early 30s. It's like, well, a lot of the time that time frame coincides with when, let's say millennials, when we got our first cars, right? Yeah, when did you lose visible abs? Like, was it when you got your first car? Because most kids are pretty lean, not all of them, but yeah, if you're a kid and you're out running around and playing with your friends, you know, playing outside, riding your bicycles around, most kids are pretty lean. And then they start to get fatter once they stop moving around frequently. And a lot of the time that coincides with the vehicle. And then we're giving kids screens earlier and earlier. So that's making them move around less on a, you know, let's say on an hourly basis. You might just sit still for 2 hours on your tablet instead of moving around as much as you used to. And that stillness, it adds up across a day, across the days, weeks, months, years, does add up. And yeah, when do you stop bicycling around? Usually when you get a car, right? And then all the kids start maybe driving around in high school if their parents can afford it. I couldn't afford it, but yeah, a lot of kids start driving around at that age. But I think we're just going to be pushing that age down because nowadays younger and younger kids, they're going to get tablets and e-bikes, e-scooters. Now you can even rent them on the street even if you can't buy them. It's just an app. It's just a couple dollars. You don't even need to buy the whole e-bike or e-scooter. You can just rent it. And yeah, we used to have to walk across town. And I think I'm not talking shit on fat people. That's not the point of this video, right? Because some people they're dealt a different genetic lottery. Maybe their microbiome is more efficient. They have a better absorption rate of nutrients, etc. There's all kinds of different genetic or epigenetic cards and hands that we get dealt. I can elaborate more on those in future videos if you want me to research more and talk about those factors. I'm aware of those factors. This video is not an attack on fat people by any means, so please don't interpret it as such. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, yeah, when I was a kid, we didn't have our devices like, you know, super pixelated. I mean, I would still binge some Game Boy Color at night. You know, we would still play our primitive video games compared to what the kids have now. But the kids, what they have now, it's like, damn, like the quality of the video games now is absurd. It's so much higher, and I'm sure it's more addicting. I mean, what we had back then was addicting too, because it was the best thing that we had ever seen at that point in history. So I'm not saying that it wasn't addicting. I've had my vices. I still have my vices, and I still have my vices. So anyways, I do got to get out there and work out. This video has been long enough. Thank you for watching. Please drop a comment down below, and I will talk to you soon.